Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Tombstone Tourist. This week, I'm at the Quantico National Cemetery in Quantico, Virginia. This cemetery was once part of the Quantico Marine Corps training base. In fact, this land has been used by the military for over 200 years. The cemetery was established in 1983 and consists of about 725 acres. Today I've made my way along Quantico Drive to Section 28, where we're going to be visiting the final resting place of a man who was a key figure during the Watergate era of the 1970s. Here is the grave of Charles Colson. Charles Wendell Colson was born on October 16, 1931 in Boston, Massachusetts. He was, as he once put it, raised in a home filled with charity. His mother cooked meals for the hungry during the Great Depression, and his father donated legal services to prison inmates. Charles was an excellent student and graduated from high school with honors. He turned down a full scholarship to Harvard, opting instead to attend the Brown and Nichols School before graduating from Brown in 1953. He got his first taste of politics in 1948 when he served as a campaign volunteer for Massachusetts Governor Robert Bradford. After graduating from Brown, Charles enlisted in the Marines, serving from 1953 to 1955, reaching the rank of captain. Following his stint in the Marines, Charles went on to attend George Washington University Law School, graduating in 1959. In 1961, he founded his own highly successful law firm with offices in Boston and Washington, D.C. In 1968, Charles returned to politics, serving as counsel to Republican presidential candidate Richard Nixon. When Nixon won the election and took office, Charles left the law firm that he founded and joined the Nixon administration. In November 1969, Richard Nixon appointed Charles Colson to the position of Special Counsel to the President. One of his main duties as Special Counsel was serving as a special liaison to organize labor and lobbying groups that were funded by various special interest groups. He also oversaw communications with veterans and farming organizations. Most of the special interest groups who desired a meeting with the President would have to go through Coulson to get the coveted Oval Office visit. Coulson would also draft legal briefs and review documents concerning various political appointments that were being considered by President Nixon. He, along with White House Chief of Staff H.R. Halderman and fellow counsel John Ehrlichman, were President Nixon's most trusted advisors. In 1971, with Nixon's re-election campaign looming, Coulson authored the now famous memo naming the president's major political critics. The memo became known as the Nixon Enemies List. The press started calling Coulson the evil genius of the evil administration. During the early days of the Nixon re-election campaign, Coulson attended some of the committee to re-elect the president's meetings, which was often referred to as CREEP. When Coulson took charge of the communications office, he regarded CREEP as somewhat of a rival organization within the inner sanctum of the White House. In March of 1971, the committee to re-elect decided to spend $250,000 to gather intelligence on the Democratic Party. One of the people hired to run this clandestine intelligence organization was a man named E. Howard Hunt, who eventually ended up teaming with G. Gordon Liddy. It was Hunt and Liddy that organized a group that was known as the White House Plumbers. The Plumbers first attempted a break-in of the office of Daniel Ellsberg, the man who had leaked the now famous Pentagon Papers. Coulson had hoped to use the information obtained by the Plumbers to discredit those protesting the Vietnam War. Later, Coulson admitted leaking confidential information obtained from Ellsberg's office, but denied any knowledge or involvement in the break-in itself. The next move by the plumbers was even bolder. In the early morning hours of June 17, 1972, Virgilio Gonzalez, Eugenio Martinez, James McCord, Bernard Barker, and Frank Sturgis was arrested for breaking into the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate Hotel. After months of investigation, these 5 men were linked to the White House plumbers and eventually traced back to the committee to re-elect the president. In the ensuing months, that simple break-in grew into a full-fledged scandal known simply as Watergate. In addition to the investigation by the FBI and other police agencies, the United States Senate, under the direction of North Carolina Senator Sam Ervin, conducted months of hearings that were televised live. But it was actually the investigation by 2 Washington Post reporters, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, that broke the case wide open. It was Woodward and Bernstein who followed the money all the way to the Oval Office, resulting in the eventual resignation of President Richard Nixon. Now, back to Charles Colson. On March 10, 1973, 17 months before President Nixon resigned, Charles Colson resigned from his position as White House counsel and returned to private practice. However, despite his resignation, he continued to serve as a special consultant to President Nixon. On March 1, 1974, Charles Colson was indicted for conspiring to cover up the Watergate break-ins. After weeks of lengthy negotiation with Watergate Special Prosecutor Leon Jaworski, Coulson agreed to plead guilty to obstruction of justice. On June 21, 1974, Charles Colson was sentenced to a year in federal prison and fined $5,000. He ended up serving 7 months at the Federal Correctional Facility in Alabama. After leaving politics behind, Coulson became a born-again Christian, and in 1976 he founded Prison Fellowship, which is still active today and is the nation's largest Christian outreach program designed to aid prisoners and their families. For the rest of his life, Charles Colson concentrated on being a Christian advocate for those in prison. His outreach programs aided thousands of former prisoners and their families. In the years since he was released from prison, Charles Colson authored several books and received numerous awards from the Christian community. On March 31, 2012, Charles underwent surgery for a blood clot on his brain. He never recovered and passed away on April 21, 2012. The born-again Christian, who was once known as Nixon's Hatchet Man, was 80 years old. Well, that brings me to the end of this video. How many of you remember Watergate? I was a senior in high school, and I can remember watching those Senate hearings that was chaired by Senator Sam Ervin, that old country lawyer from Morganton, North Carolina. And I have to admit that after visiting the grave of Charles Colson, I came home and watched the movie All the President's Men, which was about Woodward and Bernstein and the Washington Post investigation. How many of you seen the movie? Please let us know in the comments. Now, until next time, as always, please remember, life is a wonderful journey. Be sure to take time and enjoy it. And I'll see you down the road. So long, everybody.